extra. But Charles, in the meantime, what's going on with the police?
Well, it's a throwback really to 2020, and we'll just look at the case of Charlie Staple, a young man who I spoke to yesterday. This is a picture of him earlier in the week outside the Royal Court of Justice, and he was filmed by a friend of the column, Wilsey of Resistance GB, outside at a demonstration in London, and this is how he was dealt with by police at the time.
Hey, you want me? No, I'm warning you. Okay, under public health legislation, if you don't move and go, oh yeah, I'm going to arrest you. All right. Yeah, go then. See, you got to go, ain't you? You got to go, mate. Mate, what are you doing? You got to go, mate. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going. Get off me then. Listen, mate. Mate, right, look at you. What are you doing?
Excuse me, 40s.
All right, okay. Yes. What are you doing? All right, okay.
What?
You
told me to move.
You've been warned to go under public health, okay?
Public health?
Under the public health legislation, okay? All right, I've told you.
What is that?
Shut up. Listen to me. All
You
right,
shut
okay?
up.
Tell me to shut up. I told you twice. You haven't done it, okay? You stop, turn round, and use verbal abuse. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
So
okay?
you're not socially distant.
I'm not putting up with that. Okay? So you're under arrest.
So
You're
what? You're spitting on my wife.
Mate, don't
Why
bother.
are you nicking me though?
Don't bother, mate.
I haven't done nothing.
40s, you have to engage with him. This is illegal. You have to engage with him first before you arrest him. Arrest is a. It's. Hey, what? Hey! This is a last resort. You're not legally allowed to do this. This is illegal.
Public health. Now, there's not enough time to go into the egregious detail of what happened, but nonetheless, Charlie himself was charged with assault on emergency worker, among other things. Now, he defended himself, and during his trial, he, almost as an aside, said it was like he was being tortured. The judge asked the jury if that was something that they would consider, and they found that reasonable, and therefore it's introducing the element of torture as a concept, and what we have to look at is section 134 of the Criminal Justice Act 1988. So this goes back a while, and it specifically states that a public official or person acting in an official capacity, whatever his nationality, so we have to bear that in mind because it covers acts overseas, intentionally inflicts severe pain or suffering on another in the performance or purported performance of his official duties. Now, this is reinforced, of course, by the Human Rights Act 1998, which specifically says under Article 3, Prohibition of torture, no one shall be subjected to torture or to inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. That's an absolute right. It's not qualified or limited. However, amazingly, in the Criminal Justice Act, it goes on to say that it shall be a defence for a person charged with an offence under this section to prove that he had lawful authority, justification, or excuse for that conduct. And given what we've just looked at, that seems perfectly extraordinary. Further, there is, of course, a loophole. The system is very much stacked against the individual. It states in section 135 that the requirement for the Attorney General's consent for prosecutions for proceedings for an offence under section 134 shall not be begun except by or with the consent of the Attorney General for England and Wales or the Advocate General for Northern Ireland. So that's just one of the obstacles in the path. The other one is that in this instance, they've been attempting a private prosecution on an individual basis against the police constables who were involved in this incident. And this goes back to slides I produced a little while ago, but guidance on private prosecutions from the Crown Prosecution Service. And here we see the obstacle in the path is another individual, the Director of Public Prosecutions, of course, the office that the Prime Minister used to hold. And he has the power under Section 6 to take over private prosecutions. Now, what does that mean? It means that there will be instances where it is appropriate for the Crown Prosecution Service to exercise the director's powers to discontinue or to stop it. Now, this is very significant. Further, of course, with the new government, we have a new Attorney General, and I think it bears scrutiny to look at him as an individual and indeed what he is supposed to be standing for. Richard Hermer, KC, unusually he's come straight from law and not inside politics. But the Financial Times in particular has written him up as somebody with a sort of staunch position on Israel insofar as he is meant to be a balanced exponent of effectively sort of a legal viewpoint. Now, Hermer himself is Jewish. To what extent could that present an obstacle to his objectivity given the situation in the Middle East at the moment? In an article he co-wrote back in October last year for the Financial Times, he states that Israel has a clear right in international law to respond in self-defense. They go on to use rather emotive language and talking about civilians being brutally murdered and subjected to severe atrocities. They go on to say they also have a clear right to seek justice for the crimes that have been committed on its soil. Fair enough. Not simply against those captured by Israeli forces, but against the Hamas organization itself and those who enable its military operations, which surely would apply to both sides. They go on, just as international law provides the means for categorizing and criminalizing the barbaric acts of Hamas, so too does it provide a framework for governing how Israel must respond. But how is that to be interpreted? Any nation is bound in law to comply with all the laws of war. Yes, but exactly how? And finally, they state that the laws of war are not pacifist, rather they are the opposite. They are an admission that there are occasions when war is necessary. They are designed to ensure that when war be conducted, there are limits on what harm can be done to other human beings. Now, I think given the situation that Charlie Staple has found himself in, that is a very significant sort of admission by the Attorney General and those that are within his orbit. And first of all, we've got the issue of whether there should be a common law tort of torture, and this could break very interesting legal ground. But also we have the other aspect of the fact that the Attorney General presents potentially an enormous obstacle, not just to this, but also to securing peace in the Middle East, possibly, but we shall see.
Okay, thank you, Charles.